What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It's time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarych. I missed you guys last week when we were doing our Andor breakdown. I was in Toronto doing red carpet interviews for Andor, which you can now find up on our YouTube page and wherever you get your pods. We talked to Stellan Skarsgård, aka Luthen Rael. We talked to Genevieve O'Reilly, aka Mon Mothma. And straight from there to the Calgary Expo, where we got to meet a bunch of people. John Boyega had an awesome panel. Got to chat with each of the cast members of the animated Avatar: The Last Airbender. No Katara, which I was sad about. No Toph, which I was sad about. But we got to talk to Iroh, Zuko, Aang, and Sokka. It was a real great time. And we got some exciting interviews coming up this next week as well, which I'm not allowed to talk about yet. But I can't wait to talk about this episode of The Last of Us. Joining me, as per usual, we got Sean Mott, Metalcore Nerds, in the house. How you doing, Sean?
Doing great, man. Nothing like having a good old Monday to talk about one of the most depressing TVs or series on television right now. It's a good time. Glad to be here with you guys. We can work through our pain together. It's nice.
Joining us for the very first time on the Agents of Fandom podcast, a friend of mine from the fantasy football streets. We got Rich Rebar. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing good. It was a busy weekend with the NFL draft. It was great to go through, 4 days of not sleeping and seeing where the show picked up after everyone's favorite character was going to be non-existent anymore. And I assume that, you guys played the games. I don't know if that's for sure. I know TJ did. Did you, Sean? So, I mean,
oh, yeah.
This was obviously a big fulcrum point in the game, and then the viewers, I'm sure I didn't really see a lot of I didn't like dig up a bunch of social media stuff to see I'm not coming back and coming to see, but in the game, things just keep moving, right? Like you keep playing the video game because it doesn't stop. On the show, you got to wait a week and let all that marinate. So it was, we were stuck in our feelings for a week here.
We were, and it was a bit of mixed. I think a lot of people, I was quite happy with the amount of I hate Abby. Great job, Caitlin Dever. But I hate Abby that I saw, just because when the game came out, there were so many attacks on the actor playing Abby when the game came out. And so it was really great to see, at least from what I was looking at, a lot of people just hating the character, but not the actor, and actually be able to separate those two things, which is good, because I'll admit I have some rants about the internet after and their thoughts on episode 3, because everybody just needs to fucking relax.
You have problems with the internet, do you?
Yeah, problems with the internet. How dare they have ridiculous, non-nuanced takes on the internet, on Twitter of all places. Before we start breaking down The Last of Us, I do want to have an edition of Whatcha Watching, because I had a movie a weekend of just watching so many movies. My mother-in-law, where we were staying in Calgary, had a Fire Stick, and I don't know if those things are fully legal or not, what's totally going on with the Fire Stick, but there was a lot of movies that we got to watch that are not yet on streaming throughout this weekend, so that was really nice. And I got a lot to go through for what you're watching. But Rich, I'll start with you. TV, movies, hell, if it's only been football stuff, share what football stuff you've been watching. What you've been watching.
No, yeah, the football stuff kind of bled back into my life these past few weeks with the NFL draft, but still have my off season of getting, as much pop culture I can try to cram in. I did get to see Sinners on release, so I made sure to get that in before anything was ruined or spoiled for me. Absolutely love that. I've been doing my video game playthroughs of everything, so I don't get to play a lot during football season just because of the hours. I've played Witcher 3, Cyberpunk, and I'm currently playing Assassin's Creed Shadows right now. So we're pounding through stuff right now.
Heck yeah, I love to hear it. Of the 3 games, which one was that your first Witcher playthrough?
It was.
We've talked about this, but I couldn't remember.
I know. It was one of those games I always intended to play, and it just never fit. And I said, I put it on the list. I'm going to do this first thing. after the season ends, and I played that and then Cyberpunk. But I never experienced the issues with Cyberpunk. This was my first clean experience, and I thought it was one of the best video games I've ever played, hands down.
I like it. I absolutely love it. Sean, how about you? What you been watching?
Cyberpunk does rip. I agree with you. I experienced a little bit of the problems, but then I got a PS5, and then I experienced zero problems. I was one of the lucky ones, so I can't really comment on that. As far as I've been watching, so if you guys have heard of the show called The Rehearsal on HBO, it is Nathan Fielder. He is probably most famous for Nathan For You, which was on Comedy Central, I believe. And now he has this new show called The Rehearsal, where this show is so insane to even try and describe. But basically, he, at least in the first season, he takes people's problems, like he puts out like a Craigslist ad and gets people's problems, and then he like recreates every aspect of said problem to act it out so they can find the best possible solution, so then they can enact it in real life. So like the first episode is this guy who's in a bar trivia league, and he's been lying to his whole team about having a master's degree. He only has like a bachelor's or something. And he's been in this trivia league for like years at this point. And he feels bad about lying, but he doesn't want to tell them that he's lying and have them like kick him out of the group because he really enjoys being part of the group. So they literally recreate the bar they do trivia in. They have actors bump into the real people in real life so they can act like them. And they recreate and like go over scenarios to how to approach this. And that's just how it starts. And then it kind of turns into this thing where you don't know what's real and what's not real. Like there's one where it's like someone wants to be pregnant but doesn't know if she wants a kid, so they like build a model house and get someone to lend their baby to see if they'd want a baby. It gets like so wild. And season 2 has started on to help with communications between pilots and co-pilots, so there's less crashes. And I can't even explain to you how crazy it is. I know it sounds simple, but in this last episode, they pretty much call Paramount Plus Nazis, and I'm not going to give any more context than that because you just need to go watch the show. It is absolutely insane, and I love watching it because Nathan Fielder is such this awkward human, but his mind operates at a level that is like almost unfathomable, and it's so interesting. He's so aware and unaware of everything simultaneously, and to watch him like go through these things is insane. You just need to watch this show. It's like I think you should leave like that uncomfortableness that show gives you, like multiply that by like 5, and then that's the show. Pretty much.
The studio makes me uncomfortable enough. I don't know if I could handle The Rehearsal.
Way worse than the studio. Like so much worse because it involves real people, like actual real people. Again, the line is so blurred. I can't tell what's real and what's not. And I think that's part of the allure of it. Anyway, I've been watching that. And then I guess the only really other thing I've mainly been watching, other than the normal things, the Andor, Last of Us, obviously, is been Mobland, the new Guy Ritchie series. That's funny enough, it's on Paramount Plus, and stars Tom Hardy and Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren. It's just a really solid show. It's like a crime mob boss drama, and it's really good. I don't know if you like Guy Ritchie and you like mob boss type stuff, watch it. I don't know. I feel like it's not being talked about a lot, which is kind of a bummer because I think it is very good. But it's weird because
Tom
I feel
Hardy
like
back in our lives.
Yeah. Oh, I did kind of watch Havoc, sort of. I kind of fell asleep, but really cool action, terrible story. And that's his review.
I mean, his post Venom, like his pre Venom to post Venom run, are just was so polarizing. I'm ready to have him back doing other things that we like.
Yeah, it's nice to see him in other things that aren't Venom. I totally agree, and I think that's why Mobland has been such a like refreshing thing for me because he's really good in it, and he's playing like a badass that isn't this goofy, dumb, whatever Venom was. So it's nice. Even Havoc is too easy. He's just in an insanely hyper realized action movie. It's just the story is kind of bad. That's it. But it's a Netflix movie. You can't really ask much. It's the craziest thing about Netflix is they put out like one or two like really good movies a year, and then the rest are just there. But yeah, that's Netflix. I guess that's it.
Speaking of movies with a lot of action, not a lot of story, I did watch The Working Man over the weekend with Jason Statham, and you'd never believe it, especially if you've just seen Beekeeper or any movie that Jason Statham's in. He's retired, he doesn't want to be back in the game. He's done. He's out of the game.
So it's Beekeeper.
But then someone needs his help, Sean. Then someone needs his help. So he's got to reluctantly get back in the game.
So it's the Beekeeper. Like, it's the same exact plot.
But then when he gets back in the game, you'll never believe it. He beats a whole bunch of people up. Easily, no problem. Makes his way through everybody until the end. There's a twist. He has trouble. But of course, he comes away victorious and gets back out of the game.
How did David Ayer make the same movie 2 years in a row?
So it's the Beekeeper,
with the
yes.
same person. That's crazy.
It is similar-esque to Beck's asking in chat. Is it like the Taken movies? It is very similar to the Taken movies, and it was. If you're looking for it's fun, turn your brain off, have Jason Statham kick some ass. It's exactly that. I watched. Oh wow, how am I forgetting the name of that one? I watched One of Them Days with Keke Palmer and SZA. SZA's character is just like so terrible in this and just like making so many bad decisions without any redeeming qualities, while Keke Palmer is just like acting her ass off and being incredible. Another one where the story kind of left me wanting more, but I also don't think it was really designed for me. Like, I was not the intended audience when they make that movie, but Keke Palmer rocked. She kicked ass. Saw Black Bag, Michael Fassbender, Cate Blanchett. Was pretty disappointed. Didn't enjoy it all that much. Another one where I was kind of waiting for a little bit more of a epic conclusion kind of thing. I felt like they were building up a lot of suspense, and then at the end it just was like, yeah, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. And then nothing a whole lot happened to me. So I did think Black Bag, I was a little underwhelmed, but weirdly enough, I'm not a horror guy. And my two favorite movies so far this year, horror genre-ish, kind of on the edge, both of them. Sinners, number 1. Companion, number 2. Really, really enjoyed Companion. That was the 4th movie that I watched over the weekend, and I thought it was fantastic. Like people say, go in as blind as possible, so I won't spoil anything, but Companion was pretty great. Yes. Rich, before we move on to The Last of Us, we got a chance to meet where I produce a fantasy football podcast that you're on, and at the end of it, I pop in with a group and we review a movie each week. We have a daily fantasy football league. Whoever wins picks the movie. We all watch it. We all review it. So I want your Pick 6 podcast mini review of Sinners. What'd you think? Because this, to me, is by far the best movie of 2025 so far.
Yeah, I loved it. I love Sinners. It was, I love anytime you take like a new spin on, something that is, a genre that already existed, right? Like, we've all seen vampire movies, and you're going to get, it's a movie in 2025, so you're going to get some allegory, which is fine. And, typically, it falls into like a couple categories, that you're always going to get. It's either going to be racism, feminism, or Donald Trump. Like, basically, like those are the 3 categories that like the movie's gonna revolve around. But it was nice to see, like, it was nice to see that it was they incorporated not just the black racism, but like they had like the Chinese people in it, from Missouri too. So it was like kind of fun that they mixed in, like,
it wasn't just like with the Irish immigrant having lost his home.
It was all encompassing, man, and it was like because from that era. And then I thought the lead in that movie, well, I guess Michael B. Jordan is technically lead, but the young kid that was his first movie. So listen, I'm not nearly as technical as you guys, but that was his first movie. That dude was awesome. Like, he was awesome in that movie. If that's going to be a first movie, because me and TJ talk about it all the time too, and you guys probably have had it. Like, there are no young movie stars anymore because everyone just sells IP instead of an actor. And like maybe we got a shot of getting another guy besides Chalamet on the board here, because Michael B sounds like after he does his Thomas Crown, he's going to go just into directing only for a while. So like, because he's the closest thing that we got. It's like him and Chalamet are the only dudes like under 40. Maybe Holland gets back on the board this next year when he does the Nolan movie, and maybe he gets back into like, maybe he can pick up some more steam again. But we're hurting for young actors that could carry something. And that kid was awesome.
Yeah, he really was. He was absolutely incredible. And that is, speaking of young actors carrying things, that's everything I hear about Thunderbolts is, wow, Florence Pugh. And that's kind of what I feel like. There's Florence Pugh, Zendaya, and Chalamet are really the only ones right now in terms of like the young group that can draw people to a theater. And so I agree. Miles Caton absolutely crushed it in Sinners. You can find our full 2-hour review and breakdown of Sinners up on the Agents of Fantasy.
Music in that movie was incredible.
Oh yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Music was incredible, with that one scene in particular just being visually and like, what's the audio, like audio, what's the opposite, what's the audio version of visual? Visually stunning and audioly stunning. That doesn't sound right. Sonically, thank you, music guy. That's what I was waiting for. And visually stunning and sonically stunning at the exact same time. So definitely check out Sinners in theater on as big of a screen with as big as speakers as possible. Check out our review while you're hitting the like button, subscribing, hitting the notification bell so you don't miss out on our The Last of Us and/or Season 2 Comic Corner every single week. Plus, we're going to have a Thunderbolts review dropping this week as well, with some fun interviews coming that I can't tell you about, but they're coming and you don't want to miss them. So make sure you're subscribed at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Let's talk about The Last of Us. Rich, when did you play this game for the first time? Did you play it right as it was coming out, or was it after the fact? Give us your The Last of Us origin story and then your initial thoughts on Season 2 so far.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people, I mean, the first game was, the kind of the jumping off point. Obviously, I mean, Naughty Dog anyways, you had the Uncharted games, and then they flip into different genre. Their next game sounds pretty interesting too. The girl that's playing Nora in the show is actually the lead of the next video game.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be, I think, science fiction, right? Like,
yep.
So like that'd be cool, something to look on radar. But I played the first game. I have the draft picture, just that it played. Their style of games are just so like much like such a great medium for like TV and movies anyways. Like all their games are. It's like playing TVs and playing movies. That's why it was such a bummer when they made the Uncharted movie. I was like, that was the movie. The games were the movies. It's like I was kind of a little bit worried about this. And they nailed the first season. But when the second game came out, it was a pretty divisive game, obviously, because of what happens in the episode we're coming off of. But also I think too, it wasn't just the Joel death. It was, I think it was two things. I think it was the expectations people had, all of us, when there's something that's just so amazing, like a Star Wars or like just an IP that's like so cherished to us, and you have a sequel to it and it's just not what you wanted it to be. It tends to be like, oh, I didn't like it, or it ends up being a little disappointing. And because Last of Us 2 wasn't the game I wanted it to be at the time, like I remember being like, oh, I didn't love it as much. And I revisited it again like 2 years later. And when I removed myself from the game I wanted it to be and appreciated the material that they made, I enjoyed it so much more, and fully took into what they had to offer, and like what I hope people stick with for the course of the show, coming off of this episode and what I know is going to happen down the line, and you guys know. But I also think part of the reason the game became divisive for people too is because video games are an outlet, just like TV shows are to a degree, where like it's an exhausting game, and it's not a game that offers a lot of light, right? Like it's a very dark game. If you're someone that if you're someone that thinks this is gonna like start getting like better and start being cheery, because I think a lot of times like people, it's like, oh, I just worked 8 hours, I'm gonna pop on my PlayStation, I have an hour of video games to play. The Last of Us isn't like that fun. It's not that kind of game. Like you can't pop it in. Last of Us 2 especially, you can't pop it in for 45 minutes and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go to bed now. Like that was great. Like you it's just not that. And I feel like the TV show is kind of that way too, where people are like, all right, it's Sunday night, Monday morning's coming around, like I want to watch some TV, and it's just it is that kind of show. It just keeps coming at you where it's just like of exhausting, like, and we're going to get into some of the things that we find like the themes that are exhausting. But as someone whose favorite TV show of all time is The Leftovers, I don't mind that. Like I don't mind getting that cathartic range, using it as kind of therapy in a sense. But I also think that's why though the game became divisive, not just because of the Joel death and some people gleaning on the crutch wokeness of it all. I just think that it also, from a play style, deliberately is not intended to be like that fun of an experience.
It's devastating. It's an absolutely devastating game throughout the entirety of it, and it doesn't get lighter. Like you said, it's not really one that I remember as we were binging season 1, we were like, my wife and I were binging season 1 in preparation for season 2 because she was present while I was playing the games, like not for every cutscene, but for a lot of it. But hadn't seen season 1, so we're binging through it, and at no point did she want to stop the binge. But she was also like, why the fuck are we doing this? Why am I watching this? Like, it's just absolutely devastating. It's not a lighthearted watch, throw it on before you go to bed and feel good, think happy thoughts before you go to sleep. But Sean, how about you? 3 episodes in, almost halfway through. What do you think about season 2 so far?
Honestly, I am really loving what they're pulling off with the show. And not that I'm a big gamer, but I think I've been vocal. It's like part 2 is my favorite game I've ever played, just because of the story it tells, and it really challenges you as a human to deal with perspective and deal with grief. And I think that's why I love it so much. A few years ago, went through a lot of hard deaths in the family. Obviously, it's not as gruesome as what happens in this, but
are you leading into you went on a murder spree, and so this is
no,
a nice
no murder spree
for you?
No murder spree. Definitely no murder spree. It was no revenge plot. I just like what this property, and I think Neil Druckmann in particular, the way he handles grief. And there's something people have been talking about this episode, which I'm sure we'll get into, is how Ellie is different with her grief in the series than originally she is in the game. And I think it's a testament to them seeing like, oh, people handle grief differently. And it could be a Craig Mazin thing. I usually am in the days after, they have a podcast that's a companion podcast that's hosted by Troy Baker, who voiced Joel in the game and has Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin on it. And then they break down the episode. And I'm sure they probably have some insight in this, but her being a mask, and because people are like, oh, she's too playful. And I'm like, you can still see the anger throughout this whole episode. It starts creeping through, and I think it's going to lead to a much more kind of ramping up with her rage as we go through what's going to happen in Seattle. And I love that it's like a coping mechanism for her trying to still be the sarcastic one, and her trying to smile it off and say that I'm fine. Like, that's how people deal with this stuff. And again, people deal with grief differently, but I think it's hard for people to judge that if you haven't dealt with it or haven't seen someone close to you deal with it, because it's a hard thing to explain. You can't really explain it unless you've been through it or witnessed someone else go through it. And to be like, oh, they wouldn't act like that. And it's like, I don't think that's a fair thing to say. And I love how they're taking their time. A lot of the stuff is from the game, but a lot of the stuff is very new to the series from the game. And I love that after such a traumatic big moment in the series, they took the time to let the series and the characters within it grieve from the loss of it. Because in the game, you're just like gone the next day, pretty much just straight gone. And I love that they took their time, got to see how it affected the town, how it affected everyone else, how it affected Tommy. The opening scene with Tommy, Jesus Christ. Also not in the game. You don't see like a direct mourning of Tommy, and him saying, "Send Sarah my love," ruined me. Because it's so hard, because it's like, that's like almost eons ago, him loving Sarah, and that never really goes away. But in the moment, you're thinking about Ellie's loss of Joel. You're not thinking like, oh, Joel gets to reunite with his daughter. Like, And that added thing is what makes this series so great. And I hate that people are tearing it apart on Twitter. And I know you said the game was divisive, but like, I don't think it was divisive. I just think a loud minority of people, or like a minority of people, were the loudest about it. Because again, it sold like 50 million copies or something like that. It won so many game awards. Everyone reviewing it gave it like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, like across the board. So it's like, I don't know if you could really call that divisive. You know, it's just like a certain section of that really hated it. And I feel like most of the people who hated it didn't even play the game. They just read the leaks and got pissed. And that's why it's like, I get what you mean, because there was definitely chatter about it, but I don't think it was as divisive as people think it was, you know? I did post an interesting thing after the Joel thing happened, because game players also think that they made it too obvious that Joel was going to die, which is hilarious, because go on YouTube, watch reactions of people who played the game, and watch them lose their mind because they had no idea.
I got to go through that with my sister-in-law over yesterday, I think it was. We were chatting, had no idea the Joel death was coming, and was just absolutely devastated.
One of my best friends texted me who didn't play the game and was like, dude, I just watched episode 2. I had no idea that was coming. Was completely blindsided. And that's, I like said something like, oh, hello, non-game players. Welcome to the true trauma that is The Last of Us. And definitely like what you said, Rich, it doesn't get happier. That's why I kept saying people, I was like, don't worry, it only gets worse from here. Because it really does. It only continually gets worse and worse and worse as far as like emotional state. And I think game players really need to take some of these things seem so heavy-handed because we have all of the context. And that's why, like, this show is created for general audiences. Of course, there's these amazing like Easter eggs and touch tones, and some of the scenes are straight from the game, but they are creating this series for more people. And it's going to be a different experience because we're not immersing ourselves playing this game. And there's like, obviously they're comparable, but at the same time they're not, because they're two totally different experiences as a consumer. And I think so many people are like blowing that out of the water. Like this one dude was like, I can't believe people didn't think it was obvious. And I'm like, of course you think it's obvious. You know what's going to happen.
Right.
If it wasn't obvious for you when you knew it was coming, there would be a problem.
Yeah. I would say it's even less obvious in the video game because you're so, as a video game, you're almost preconditioned to be like unbeatable, right? And be like, as a protagonist. And in the first game, they already pulled the, where he falls off the, at the college, falls through the rebar, and like, it's like they already pulled it on us. It's like, all right, how are we going to get out of this? And there's that realization when it sets in. You're like, oh, he's not, like, this is not. And then I thought that the show did a really great job of that. It was just like, where he didn't even try to talk his way out of it, right? Like we're going back an episode now at this point, but when Abby basically says like there's some things you can't come back from, he just kind of nods like, yeah, I know I did that shit. Like, kind of know it's you as an audience member too. Like, yeah, this is really happening. Like it's real right now.
And it's, as you said earlier, Rich, this show does such a good job of, or sorry, that was Sean who said this. This show does such a good job of challenging your perspective. And it's so interesting because there's no protagonists really, right? Like there's protagonists, but no heroes. There's nobody that is a good person. Everybody that we meet has redeemable characteristics aside from fuckface pastor leader David at the end of at the end of season 1 and the first game. That guy's got no redeeming qualities other than that he was voiced by Nolan North.
No, this game does a beautiful job of saying like, if you were put in that spot, would you be capable of this? Like,
yeah,
like, or in general, like and where they're handling taking the show, it's like you're like, yeah, there's a lot of realisms here, and that's the whole theme of like what the second game is going to be about. And they've already kind of gone a different direction, which I don't mind, as long as you don't want anything ever to be an overlap. I think gamers or anyone that's a book reader or anything, you don't want to just be a direct overlap of what you experience. Like, why? You already had that experience. Like, you want it to be different and find ways to expand it. And as a video game, you only play as Ellie and Joel. And, spoiler alert, there's another character you do play as in the game, but you see through things through the POV of those characters and what they're experiencing. But like where the show has like really done a great job, I think, especially early in season 3, is expanding Jackson and the community of Jackson. You brought up Tommy. Tommy's character is so infinitely better on the TV show than it is in the video game. And I thought the way that they've moved the pieces around with Tommy at the beginning of this season have made him so much better of a character in this universe than the video games have. Obviously because he's such a foundation pillar of the community of Jackson. That's why you can't have him be in the game part, because in the second episode he's with Joel in the video game. It's him with Joel, and you find Abby and you guys are together, but he needs to be in Jackson. He needs to be on the front lines of Jackson. That's why they show his son in the first episode. They're expanding out just how pivotal he is, to the community there. And he's, you see him, rebuilding, the building there before, Jesse comes in like Steve Rogers, and, hammers that thing down with one with one bow there. But, and then when he's talking to Ellie, pre-gaming for the town hall event, you can just see like how Tommy is like just such a focal point. It's not just Maria, right? Because in the video games, you got like Maria's like hard ass running this community. And it's a lot more where Tommy is like really involved, because in this point in the game, Tommy's gone already. He's ghosted. He's chasing them before Ellie is. And I thought it was a really great dynamic to have him tie into just like, this is how much he means to all these people, and, finding that balance there. So I thought he's been by far the most impressive part of this, what they've altered in season 3 for me, at least for 3 episodes. We'll see how much of Jackson we actually get moving forward, but you guys know that. So
it works so perfectly twofold as well, whereas we get seeing Tommy and how much he means to Jackson. We got that awesome scene with him, the partial, I don't know if it was a oneer or how long it was a one shot for, but at least only a couple cuts, that it's just Tommy going from station to station throughout the city until he's fighting the bloater. It was incredible. But the other part of it that we talked about last week, that it also adds to, of having Dina there with Joel as he dies, is it adds to her motivation of why she would want to be going with Ellie, which we see at the end of this episode. Their relationship, Dina and Joel's relationship, a whole lot stronger than it was in the game. And so I think that's a nice added part. Sean, I guess we'll actually start diving into the episode itself now, 32 minutes in, but that's why this is such a fun property to talk about. I like how, you talked about a little bit how you've seen complaints about people saying like Ellie doesn't seem like she's actually taking it all that hard, but I think we see right at the, like, how does the episode open? It opens with her scream, right? The first time we see her, just like this most terrifying guttural scream. And so I think after that 3-month gap, as we go 3 months later, it's everything we know about Ellie. She doesn't just deal with her trauma. She pushes her down. She makes her jokes about it. And she, like the person she's learned all of these things from, just learns to keep on going as opposed to actually processing her trauma. So when she gets to the therapist, she has a conversation with Gail. She knows how to get through it. Why? Because Ellie's smart as fuck. Ellie knows the correct answers she has to say to get to the next spot. We see her having those conversations with the Fedra employees she's working under, who are quote unquote caring for her, of like, Ellie, you're smart. You got to stop doing this shit. If you say the right things, you're just going to be able to keep moving up the chain. And she knows how to do that now. One of the most ridiculous things I saw was people basing off of that therapy conversation. Oh my God, they're getting rid of the porch scene. The porch scene never happened. And for those who didn't play the game, we're not going to spoil what the porch scene is. But you guys, this is Ellie lying to get through therapy. We do not have to take what she's saying at face value. These are not truthful words. From the scream through the faking through therapy to returning home and breaking down, Sean, what did you think of Ellie's intro 3 months later here?
I continually am dumbfounded by people who think that Bella Ramsey wasn't the perfect choice for Ellie, because each episode they deliver phenomenal performances, like incredible performances. that TJ and I, we've talked about this. We've been on many after shows together at this point for this year. The level of TV that has been coming out this year is like record breaking, I think, like top of the top. And The Last of Us is in that conversation, even 3 episodes in by my standards. And Bella Ramsey's performance is right up there with the lot of them, of like incredible performances from this year. Absolutely amazing. And also for all these people who say things are too over the top, and Gail says she's lying later in the episode. Are you not even paying attention to the episode? Like, obviously she's lying. Obviously the porch scene is coming. The porch scene is one of the last things that happens in the game. Again, not going to spoil what happens in the porch scene, but how could you think that we're not going to get that for a long time? We're going to have to wait a while. And I love that they keep kind of, it's great for game players because they're like teasing us. Even that tease of it in episode 1, I was like, oh, you motherfuckers. I was like, you are cruel and you are evil for even doing that at all. Like, they are messing with us. And I love that. They are subverting our expectations. And that's what they should do. They're creating this incredible series for everyone to enjoy. But for game players, they're giving us this new experience of something that's so familiar and beloved to us. And I was so shocked by the time jump. Because again, like I said, the game, you're just gone. Next day, pretty much. I think maybe a few days, but it's like pretty immediate. Like, it's still winter when they leave. So to see this time, and we'll get to like the conversation with Dina and Ellie, like it makes that stuff like even more impactful. And like, I don't know, like it adds this like more sad notion to what we know Ellie is going to go through, because she had to sit with, because it's obvious as soon as she gets out, she wants to go. And the box scene straight from the game, like right after Joel dies, you end up going to Joel's house. The flowers from the game, beautiful.
I just stayed in his house for like 40 minutes.
Just
like walked around.
Just crying.
Yeah, because it kind of happens right after, right? Like in the game,
literally
that
right after.
kind of happens right after, where you're like walking up to his house and you're going through everything. I was like, I'm not going out. I'm just gonna stay in here.
I'm just gonna
chill. Just live in this duster.
But seeing the box, you see the watch. She moves the watch, takes the gun. Obviously, it's like a perfect allegory for the two. Like this episode's called The Path. And obviously they're talking about the cycle of violence, revenge, justice, forgiveness. And it's almost like she swipes away the forgiveness, chooses violence right from the start. And that's straight from the game too. You open the box, she takes the gun. And
one thing the show I think is doing, and there'll be later scenes I think that tie into this, is it did more so than the game did, is that she's almost now post Joel pivoting into the Joel character, whereas Dina now is taking on more of the Ellie role, and they didn't really do that in the game. Like they really, so it's almost like you saw almost Dina being more playful and joking towards the end of the episode, and you see more of a stoic version of Ellie than we had to that point. So it's almost like you're flipping the dynamic a little bit, where she's now doing the inverse. And we'll see how people, because a lot of people definitely wanted to tune in and follow the story for Joel and Ellie's companionship, and now we have to see if they can they want to stay on the board, if they're drawn in as much with Ellie and Dina.
Yeah,
Dina and the performance from Isabela Merced has been my favorite part of the new season so far. Like, I thought Dina in the game was cool. I liked Dina in the game.
No, she's too cool. In the game, I wanted to be mad at her for certain things, and she's too cool on the show. I'm like,
yeah, I'm just in love with her in the show. Like, she's just perfect.
Yeah.
Rich, what do you think of the whole start from the additional therapy scene? 3 months later, we get to the house, leading us right into Dina and Ellie making their little plan.
Yeah, and this is all well played because of the stuff they had to change in episode 2. Episode 2 can't end the way it ends on TV without having kind of that filler and adding that Jackson action scene, right? Like, you need that. And so you need an aftermath of that if you're going to do that. And You can't just have them right off the day after. Like they're, literally hundreds of people died in that event, right?
Oh,
Like, and
God.
the rebuilding process, like you can't just have them jump off on this adventure afterwards. Like you have to have that follow up for what you put in. So you need not just a beat for Joel, you need a beat for everyone else. Lost other people that weren't Joel to that. They lost a bunch of Joels to, across the community, and you need that, and then we get a little bit of that later on in the town hall meeting. But literally, like when you don't see the full scope right until they go to the actual burial ground, like where they set out all the occupants at, and you just see like the sheer volume of the headstones. Joel gets his individual moment, I believe, where you see how big Joel's importance was when you go to his house, and everything that's outside his house is left over to what he meant to the entire community. But then again, they bring it back at the end to say, hey, like, no, these are the hundreds of people that were lost in this event, and it wasn't just Joel.
And that's another great addition that they made right at the first episode of this season, is that Joel was the foreman of Jackson, whereas I think he was just kind of another guy. He was just Tommy's brother in the game, essentially, whereas in this one he was a very integral part of the community, like you said. Rich, I've talked about the PTSD I've felt from the game anytime I hear a very specific type of whistle.
Oh, yeah.
Did you think we were getting our first whistle and our first Scar appearance this early in the season in episode 3?
No, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about this being game players, because, like, obviously the path that they've taken that's different from the game that people have probably talked about is that up until this point, you don't really know who Abby is in the game. Up until this point,
Right.
You don't know the background, and they decide to lead off with the way. I mean, literally, season 2 opens with the Seattle group, outside Salt Lake City, burying everyone that Joel took away from them, and you don't know any of this background. So, like, they've got to try to find a way. And I know some people just will generally hate Abby to this point, just because she killed off a character that everyone liked, but they've already established that she had motive, like, that some people maybe not are sympathetic about or empathetic about. And now they have to, I think, establish another grounds to kind of make her more of an antagonist.
Or would you assume people have empathy?
At this point of the show, though, they need to further push her as an antagonist at this juncture of the show. And by incorporating this is just a very easy way to kind of fold that in of like, this is how serious the wolves are. They can be bad people, or they are bad people, right? And that's the way they kind of, and then you get to kill two birds with one stone, because you introduce the Seraphites, the Scars, and you get to kind of incorporate them too, and without introducing any main characters of the Scars, which was well played too and balanced off. So they kind of killed, like I said, they really cover their bases here of what they're trying to further, where they want you to feel about Abby right now, and what they're setting up, kind of moving on.
Very well said. And again, well, just because I've seen it, I won't get into any type of spoilers or anything, obviously, but I think it's with the way that they're telling the rest of this story this season, I think it was integral and smart to kind of give us the Abby backstory that we got already. But I'm excited to continue to dive into more about the Seraphites, more about the WLF. Sean, did you expect to get this tease of these different groups before we even get to Town Hall?
No, I was actually very well. So I watched the episode a little late last night. I had band practice, so I was a little late to the game. My friend was like, "Who are these Joker-like characters?" So I was like, "Oh, he's talking about the Scars," and I was like, "They're already in the show." I was like, "Oh, interesting." I was like, "Wait, are they in Seattle already?" He's like, "No," and then I realized like they were showing them in Seattle because they show the trail, and then you show Seattle Trail. Let's see, what was Carlos have to say? Seraphites is really clunky. Now it's a bad choice, but they sort of came out of nowhere, no context. I guess I can see that in a way. It was kind of foreshadowing to the journey of what we're going, because you see the same sign. You see Ellie and Dina go through the same sign, and it was setting up them discovering them later on. I don't know why my picture just
Your camera just went crazy.
That's weird. I'll figure that out. But it's like I thought it was kind of not needed, but I appreciated that they already start to incorporate them. And definitely what Rich said, it was cool to see them in a sympathetic light, because in the game you just experience them as Ellie and you get like shot with an arrow just kind of out of nowhere, and they're just presented to you as another opposition, and then you kind of learn about them later, which made me hopeful that maybe we'll learn even more about the Seraphites, which you do learn some about it in the game, but I'm kind of hoping the series dives deeper into it. And obviously kind of the biggest point of this episode, well, at least like the closing moments of this episode, is showing how much of a threat the wolves are. And I think obviously like it's pretty obvious that they took them out. And as game players, we know there is a war between the WLF and the Seraphites.
That to me was what was important to introduce that they were doing. Like, we don't actually get a full introduction of the Seraphites, but we get an introduction that they're walking into a fucking chaotic storm of war. They're not just going to find Abby and it's going to be all happy.
This wasn't just 6 people that came to come get one person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And to have like them to be like, oh yeah, it's only going to be a small group. It's almost like a nice parallel to seeing what we saw when in episode 2, when Abby's crew wakes up and they're like, it's a whole town. We thought it was like a tent colony. You know, it's almost like the inverse of the same thing. It's like almost like they have no idea what they're getting into as well. And I love that. And it does, like, against what Rich said too. And believe me, so many people still hate Abby. Like,
oh yeah,
all the people who are like,
that.
I didn't come in, they're like, I hate Abby, which makes me excited because obviously us knowing what's coming, it's going to provide a very interesting dynamic for things to come and understanding perspective and everything like that. But I liked seeing them so early. Again, I wasn't expecting, and I can see how it can feel out of nowhere, but I think as you see the episode play out, it makes more sense.
Especially because where it breaks off, because they need to establish like where they're headed, like Seattle. Like, it's not like you can, and you have the overlap where like, look how beautiful and serene it is. That like maybe this will be easy, like, because they need to establish like this is a force like that they're going to deal with. But I mean, the Abby stuff is interesting because like my wife didn't play the games, she doesn't know anything about them, but even she has through 3 episodes viewed kind of Abby as like, well, they're going to make her an anti-hero, like really, like right away. And I thought that was that's probably the most polarizing approach right now. And I'm open-minded. I'll reserve judgment until I see how it plays out, but I do think that that's probably the most interesting element is just right now is that they're immediately almost selling her like an anti-hero. And they kind of needed to go back and double back on this and say like, no, like she's still, like, they're still part of a group that could be a threat. Where it's not really in the game part, like you still don't know anything about her at this point.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is that they made her crew very much like against what she was doing.
And there's hints at that, but not to the degree of the show. Like,
yeah, the show like amplified. I think later they show like they were remorseful. But like in the events, they're all kind of like disgusted and deeply disturbed with what's going on, besides maybe Manny. That dude's a psycho. He was like, let's go. He was obviously, but it's so fun to see Joaquin Torres do, like, you see him as Falcon, then you see him as this. It's like so
he's just
polar
this like happy-go-lucky silly guy, and in this he's like, fuck everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill everyone in this room. It's like, what, dude, range, bro. Congrats. But yeah, I agree. It's like they're making the WLF feel more antagonistic, which is crazy because you're going into Seattle and like they are the mission to take them out, but it's like, it's crazy how this game makes them, or the series makes them feel like even more as the villains. It's very interesting what they're playing with, like, again, not only general audience, but like people who already know the story. I appreciate what they're doing to make you like think on your feet, even though you kind of know what's coming, but they're definitely changing enough to where it's like you might know the big beats, but you don't know what's going to come in between. And I love that. Like, that makes it so much more exciting as a game lover to like really not know what's coming. And even like TJ is like alluded to being like, dude, that end of the season ends in such a shocking way. And I even tried to guess, and he's like, no. And I'm like, I have no idea then. And that's cool. Like, I love that. I love that. It's a story that I know so well. Like, I just started replaying the game like weeks before this. I'm like day 2 in Abby's part and stuff. Like, I don't even really care if I finish it at this point. I kind of got to the point I wanted to, but it's And it's been cool playing because there's been parts I even forgot, only playing through it once 5 years ago. There's little moments where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. How cool. So it's been a good experience. And I'm just like enjoying what they're pulling off. Like it's much like Invincible. They stay pretty close to the source material, but they take these liberties to make things better or more interesting or more updated. And big fan.
Yeah, because that same thing that with the comic book example is you're kind of glued to seeing things through like a POV of the lead characters. Same thing when you play a video game, like you're controlling the characters. And now, being transitioning to TV media, and like you have a lot more freedom. Like I said, to flush out Jackson, make Jackson like a real place. I don't know how much more Jackson will actually get, but they've already established like so much more than we got that I would assume that we're still going to see ongoings in Jackson. So I would assume we're not just done with them. Just like, if anyone didn't play the game, like you will see more Pedro still too. So don't be heartbroken.
Yeah.
Joel Miller is dead, but Pedro Pascal's role in the series is not over. There's they wouldn't have be keeping him booked like that if he wasn't going to be actively popping back up. He's still a pretty big part, and they want that face on screen, I think, as much as they possibly can to keep busting seats. Another new addition to this episode that was not in the game is Seth's role at the town hall. I think it was another awesome Bella Ramsey speech was really great. Kind of how it started out as just like this very calculated and rehearsed thing, and you can just see the anger and the rage building within her as it goes.
She tried to pull the therapy session.
Exactly.
She got away with Gail. She tried to
exactly. And then Seth comes in out of nowhere in the game. All he does is calls Ellie and Dina some slurs, makes them a sandwich, and we're out. We're done with Seth. But he plays a big role in the town hall, and then a big role in helping them get out of Jackson. That's part of what you were talking about, Rich, with how much more fleshed out the community is.
Yeah, first of all, you skipped Scott. Scott, you had a terrible idea. We aren't growing corn. We've already established we can grow barley and wheat. Like, we don't need to. We'll be wasting our time on corn, Scott. Sit down. This is not the time. We're making
Read
beer.
the room, bro.
We're like, yeah.
Not the time, Scott.
They've already established like we're getting beer still. 30 years after the things fall apart. Like, we don't need to start. We need to waste our efforts on corn, Scott.
That's insane.
Sean, what did you think of Seth's addition to the episode?
I liked it. And I know there's been some controversy on this as well, because they're like, oh, we're giving the obvious bigot a redemption arc. I don't see it as that. I see it as humans are complicated things. And just because, like, I like even when he responded and apologized, he's like, I shouldn't even have thought that. To me, that's seeing a human realizing what they did was wrong. Does it fully take away what they did? No. But that is a human willing to learn. And him helping them is also a human willing to learn. Do I think it fully redeems him? No, because he still said what he said. Okay? And that's wrong.
I also think there's a lot of people in the world who, if you're going to put people into a box, if I know somebody who doesn't like gay people enough to call them slurs, to yell slurs at them in front of a large group of people, to let that, I mean, he was drunk, I know, but to let that in the open, would be willing to bet that they're also a big gun guy. And they're also going to be fresh, ready to go to war if somebody ever comes and attacks their home. And so to me, that was quite in character for him as well,
For sure. And a thing, TJ and I were talking about this a little before we started recording, is that, again, to game players is going to seem obvious, but within the town hall, they bring up 2 points. Seth is 1 point, and then the other guy, I don't remember his name, is the other point, of him being like, we need to forgive. We need to move on. What's happened. We need to not be what they are. And then Seth's like, fuck that. It's not revenge, it's justice. Them justifying the revenge. It's still revenge. Okay? It is what it is. A lot of people want to see this revenge happen. I get it. We just saw Pedro Pascal get brutally murdered on TV. Understandable. But it's setting up the two paths. Again, episode's called The Path. There's our Ellie's two paths. And obviously she takes the one, but Seth is perpetuating the cycles of violence. That's not really a good thing. He is aiding, which probably is the worst possible path for Ellie. Again, even though we want her to see her get her revenge, whatever. You have to think about it this way. And this is for game players, non-game players. If the POVs were switched in this series, Joel would be the villain. Straight up. If The Last of Us Season 1 took place from Abby's perspective, Joel would be the villain. 1000%. And I think people need to start thinking that way. Is that, like TJ said, there's no real heroes in this universe. It's just humans with actions and consequences.
Yeah, they did a great job with that.
As we have seen with episode 2.
Yeah,
those actions will have consequences.
Well, the parallels, because you have, Abby talking to younger Abby, as she's, again, the path, don't go, and you don't need to go in the room. She's literally telling her, because I always see that the way that this ties into, I don't know if you guys talked about this at the end of the last episode, but I take that when I rewatched it too, the episode 2, is older Abby trying to tell younger Abby, like, you're not going to get anything out. You're not going to get out of this what you think you're going to get out of it. Don't go to it. Mm-hmm. And now we have Ellie essentially going on the same path that, it's literally the same thing that, is she gonna, and, non-spoiler, spoilers for those that have played the game, like this theme goes on to the entire ride, like the entire ride.
100%. And how do we first get introduced to the Seraphites in this episode? As, this group that's walking and families raising their kids, and then the next time we see them,
culture,
they're all dead, all absolutely massacred. Well, in the game, I'm telling it's hard to feel sympathy for the people that are always shooting arrows at your head and who are whistling above you at all times, and you're about to get killed.
And how many fireman axes are available in the post-apocalypse? Like, everyone's got a fireman axe. Like,
give me a horde of zombies over fighting them 10 times out of 10. Like, the zombies are less fear-inducing in those moments of the game for me. And so, yeah, we do absolutely see it throughout. And the one part that I do want to touch on before we move on too far past the details of this episode is another one where, again, I don't know why everybody takes dialogue within a show at perfect factual face value instead of these are human being characters who lie about stuff. But another one of the things that I saw on the internet is like, I can't believe how much they're ruining Dina's character. There's this, first they had the moment where they skip the scene that they get high together, and now Dina says that she's not gay, she's not bisexual. She said, Ellie, you're gay, I'm not. Oh my gosh, are they going to completely take out Ellie and Dina's relationship? They're ruining the show. You guys, fucking relax. It takes some people a long time to come out of the damn closet. We know her feelings for Ellie. We've seen them tease Ellie. I think they should be terrified of you.
Well, I always considered Dina not to be either. I think she's not in love with anyone's genitalia. She's in love with people. Like, she's that's the kind of character I've viewed her as, even in the game. That's how they make her jump out. She gravitates to people, not any specifics.
And I mean, I don't think this is a spoiler to say, relax, there's more Dina and Ellie relationship stuff coming.
But they also had to do this because in the video game they didn't have this luxury, right? Like, you kind of go off on this thing with with Dina where it's also them, like, they're like blossoming love, right? Like, and it's really out of place in the game, the way the transition is. They do a good job of like making it slow build, but like you're kind of like you're like out of it, and you're like, they have to slow play this and like they have to layer it in and take your time, man, because it's not a thing. It's like, oh hey, we can be together now, like like as we go on this murder rampage.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more. Sean, any other points on that aspect before? I can't believe how many people thought this season would conclude upon the entrance to Seattle, and now episode 3 is done and we are already in Seattle.
Yep.
Sean, what do you think
True.
about the relationship stuff, and then the pacing of where the season concludes?
To add to the whole relationship stuff, can you not tell how obvious it is that Dina is into Ellie? Even in this episode, and even in episode 1, which episode 1 was more context to the relationship than we ever got in the game before everything starts going down. That was new stuff, new interactions with Ellie and Dina, and kind of showing, like, even them saying they're best friends. They don't really give off that vibe in the game. It just comes off as like a crush that, you know, Ellie is obviously very uncertain of because she's very insecure, but like obviously Dina is very into Ellie. But like, she even calls her a badass in this episode. She says, I'm not that high. I wasn't that high when we kissed. Like, there are so many obvious things that they're that they're obviously going to be a couple, that I don't know why that one line would erase it. And again, it's like, some people aren't comfortable directly coming out. Maybe she's probably unsure herself. That doesn't mean she likes Ellie any less. It's just like she's also figuring her stuff out too. These are like young adults in very formative years of their life who live in a post-apocalyptic world where their like, you know, pseudo father figure just got murdered in cold blood. Like, there's a lot of things going on here, and I think a driving factor. Obviously, the Joel was a driving factor because they had much more relationship in the series than in the game. But it's like, obviously she's also going because she has feelings for her. Like, and she's had feelings for her for years. And the whole Jesse statement of, oh yeah, we already got back together. That will become more apparent later. I don't really want to say any more to that, but that will become more apparent later why that needed to happen, why that certain line of dialogue was said. But yeah, getting to Seattle, like I said, like, so much talk about how the season would be structured compared to the game. What are they going to do? Are they going to link in some flashbacks? Then you see episode 1, and it's like, we got a scene straight up instead of a flashback. Like, oh, how are things going to go? And it's been very interesting to see it go. And I'm happy we're in Seattle. Looks incredible. Like, it literally just looks like the game. It's insane. And I know they handle VFX in the show super cool. You can watch a behind the scenes thing for how they made season 1 and how they handle VFX in the show, and it's insanely impressive. Like, even like with the infected, like a lot of, like, some of it's real, but then they kind of duplicate stuff in VFX, and it's like so hard to tell. And I think it's what they do in this show, and from a technical aspect, is insane and amazing.
Streamers, and it was pretty funny.
Oh wow, that is
like,
funny.
You'll just see like a blob of something with like a zombie head like sticking out over top of it, and they're just like creeping up towards people, and it's even scarier than the zombies themselves.
Wow, yeah, I mean that makes sense.
I mean, acting's such a wild profession. Like, you know, we take it at
Yeah.
such face value, but it's like so silly behind the scenes. It's like
somebody
like,
just
not
like
to
somebody in a
tangent.
black morph suit with like a like a practical zombie head like sticking out way above them, so they're taller.
Insane. Absolutely. That's insane. I love that stuff. Hearing that stuff, how silly some of the stuff is done, like,
yeah.
like in camera, for it to wind up how it is amazing. But yeah, we're in for a wild ride. I saw the trailer for episode 4, and subway scene. Whew, can't wait. Everyone who was begging for more infected, they're delivering on that tenfold this season for sure.
The
Already
budget's
like
a little
4
better.
episodes. 4 episodes in, it's going to be just infected galore. And there's a certain scene between Dina and Ellie that I can't wait. I don't even want to talk about because I don't want to spoil it. But it seems like it's a context that was made in the game, but I feel like they're going to handle it a different way. And I just, Isabela Merced as Dina has been such a surprise, because pretty integral character in the game, but what she has brought to this role in the series has been so cool. She seems, I mean, and she handles her own in the game, don't get me wrong, for sure, but she seems so much more like strategic and resourceful, and like even coming up with a game plan to go, and she is the one who has all the knowledge of Abby and her crew, which again in the game that was Tommy. Her being like, oh, this is what you're bringing, well, we need to get all this stuff too, or you're going to die. Giving it a more grounded approach, because again, it's not a video game, these are like real people in this world.
Well, I love
that
it
need to
because when she's
survive.
leaving, we didn't talk about like in the garage where Dina shows up and she's like, "This is what you're taking." It's like, yeah, it's all the shit I had in the game. Like I didn't have any
Yeah.
other, like I just need all that stuff. That's all I need. Like I just need all the guns and all the things. She's like, "Nah, we need like, what if you get sick? Like, what if you?" It's like, I love how they just pull you back because it's just like,
What if I get sick? I'll be able to find some pills at various houses
wrap a
throughout my
bandage around
journey.
it. Right? Yeah, supplements. Chill out.
Gunshot wound. I just wrap a bandage around my arm and I'm fine. Right? That's how it goes. It's fine. It's no big deal. I love that. I mean, even medical supplies. I was like, I do hope. I don't think we. Maybe we did. Did we see someone wrap their arm last season? We might have. I'll take any good little arm wrap animation. It's just a nice little nod. There was. So in episode 1, we see Dina like use listen mode and she counts how many clickers are in the thing. I did see her doing it in the preview and she just keeps counting, like saying like that's how many fucking infected are in this area. So that's going to be awesome. I'm very, very stoked. Like I said, I can't wait to see how it continues to go and how the season ends. And I'm kind of sad it's only 7 episodes, but they what they're packing into these episodes, I think is they're doing a lot of work with also like taking their time, and that's really cool. And I respect.
Thing with TJ kind of spoiled to me that like it's not going to end the way you think it, because first season largely is on rails with the video game, is very much largely on rails, whereas this I think a lot of people thought they're going to do it 2 seasons. There was a clear point where it's like this, it's going to get to this point and this is where it'll stop and we'll get to experience it. And they are immediately, like I said, threw you off that curveball. Now I'm in a weird point too, where, because to this point essentially is the prologue. Like it really is like this, everything we've done in the video game and to the show at this point is the prologue to what's going to happen forever for the rest of the show. And I don't know how many episodes there's going to be, but when I see there's only 4 episodes left of the season, I'm like that. Now I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do or where is it going to end. I already know like it's been subverted or it's not going to end where I thought it was going to end. But now I wonder, like I'm almost
so maybe I thought where I think you thought was going to end is not where you actually thought it would end.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's even slower now. I'm actually hoping it's even slower now, though. I don't want them to do this big arc here and then rush these 3 days. I want them to I'd be totally content with them just slow playing it and seeing what they could squeeze out of it.
Make it 5 seasons, 6 seasons of the last.
Well, everything that they've added to this point, like I have no, even as a beholden to the story, and like I want them to at least like stick to core tenets and stuff. Like everything they've added, I think has largely been a positive to this point. To be determined. The Abby payoff or not, but everything has been great. So it's like keep slow playing it, keep fleshing it out, and don't make it like it. I feel like it doesn't have to get to. I don't like I said, I don't know who played the games and who's listening or not. I don't feel like it needs to get to that particular. Put it this way, I don't think it needs to get to the end of the 3 days.
Any theories of where, from either of you, where these next 4 episodes are gonna take us?
I mean, yeah. Again, I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't played the game.
Like not from story beats, but maybe just like location settings. You know what I mean? Like you could say like a theater, and no one who hasn't watched the show is gonna know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to the theater probably next episode. Maybe I think we might get our first Joel flashback next episode. I'm glad they didn't do it this episode. They let it time to breathe. But I saw a certain guitar scene, which I'm like, I know that triggers a flashback.
So I've seen pictures, from the suit, because I don't watch like the trailers or anything, and you don't click on those videos. But when someone tweets a picture or something, like there's like, I see my eyeballs were open. What am I gonna do? Like, yeah, and I do know the best flashback in the game I think is in this season, I believe. So the museum.
I'm going to,
because I've seen a picture of her on the dinosaur, like as a leak thing, and it's like, damn it, I wish I hadn't seen
it. Trailer. Yeah, I was in a trailer.
I was like, damn it, I wish I wouldn't have seen this. This is why I don't watch this shit. Like, you can't, man. Everything's ruined now. Like, dude, the event that Marvel literally had a like standalone event where they just showed chairs of 40 different characters going to be in the movie. It's like, I didn't want to know any of those characters to be in the movie. Like, thanks a lot. Like, like people are just like what I need to do. I don't need any of this.
I think they could do that because of how many more people are going to be in the movie. That'll still be a secret.
But I'm saying this is the era we live in where the hook
Yeah.
has to be. It's like you already have like you don't need to like. You're fine, man. Avengers Doomsday was going to sell itself. Even with the shit going on, like that's like it still was largely going to sell itself. And if you put out a good product, the word of mouth will bring people back the second week. Like
as Sinners has proven, of just
make good stuff. Don't ruin it for people. I always think go back to Ragnarok being the one where I was like, I'm done with trailers because when they showed Hulk in the trailer, I was like, I'm done with this. Like, imagine that reveal the first time that reveal being like I can't watch movie trailers anymore, man. I'm out of this game. Show up to the movies 27 minutes late when you go to the movies because that's what you're getting. Commercials and previews 25 to 27 minutes late. Make sure you don't need to be there any earlier.
That was my biggest, I think, issue with Captain America: Brave New World is that whole movie was in the trailer. Like there was basically like when the Red Hulk is Act 3, and that's like the big thing. You can't show all the Red Hulk moments in the trailer. It had some really cool action, but I just kind of had felt like I had already seen most of the movie before I went and saw the movie. Sean, any other final thoughts from The Last of Us episode 3 before we get out of here?
No, just really good episode TV. Again, I just love how they slowed it down after like, a really impactful episode. Again, episode 2, highest rated Last of Us episode on IMDb. Wild. Which is really cool. I know it's getting like review bombed by audiences on Rotten Tomatoes. Dumb. Hate it. But
thanks.
I mean, I saw a lot of like a lot of people are, it's weird because it was such an impactful episode for me, and it's like I knew it was coming, and I was playing with the anxiety of me of like, are they going to do it this episode? Are they not going to do it this episode? I've been trying to like let it sink in and enjoy it, but like a lot of people are claiming it's like one of the best episodes of TV, which like I feel like it's said every month because again we live in such a golden era of TV. Like I think that is just like a fact. There's so much good TV that people are just dropping these bangers of episodes of television all the time. I don't know where I stand with that, but like I thought it was like the perfect way to like slow down, like a nice like epilogue, a nice eulogy for Joel Miller in this episode. Oh, and we didn't talk about this, but I do love when Ellie started screaming when she woke up. It was like the PTSD of the moment, which happens in the game, but not till like way later. So I love they're setting it up now. It's a cool parallel to how like Joel was feeling like anxiety attacks in season 1. And I feel like we're going to see more of that kind of like Ellie suffering from PTSD. And I really like that they introduced it so soon. But yeah, just overall, like some beautiful shots in this episode too. Like when they visit the grave scene and also adding the coffee beans to his grave. Jesus. Brutal, man. I was like, no way. Stop. Just stop. Just stop. Stop. Again, they find ways to make this more heartbreaking than it already is. So just
and I don't know if anyone skipped it. If you're a skip intro person, they finally changed the intro. If you are
just one.
Yep. If you are a skip intro person, you did miss. They did change it.
If you skip this intro, what is wrong with you? It's beautiful. Listen to that amazing score every time.
Sean was
that intro.
saying before the show we should have done that for The Last of Us background here. Going in, just take Joel's face completely off and just have Ellie there.
I mean,
the show does an amazing job of actual like Easter egg stuff too, right? Like we saw the astronaut in this episode in her house, which later on will be something that is significant to those that didn't play the game. Obviously you had the duster moment, and she didn't take the duster, right? His coat. I
don't know.
I always say, I always have the Always Sunny like sweet duster, bro, like in my head, like every time I see it. But she didn't actually take it. She just spent a moment with it.
Yeah,
I just had a text from my mom come up onto my computer as we're recording. Would I like The Last of Us? I don't know how to answer this quiz. It's a loaded question, Mom. I don't know how if like is the right word.
Well, Mom, do you love depression?
And Ellie had a Matrix poster in her room, to sign off because Sean has the Matrix picture. I have one. I don't see the camera. I have one right behind me too. With the glasses. So there was a Matrix poster. I love that they tie. So what are they doing? The bands, the alphabet bands. Clearly bands that they never experienced. At the time while they were alive,
Right.
Pre-apocalypse. Got to enjoy in the moment, but it was kind of a fun callback to do that stuff too.
Yeah, in that world,
because no one's making new media. You gotta enjoy what existed. Curtis and what's the other one?
Curtis and Viper.
Curtis and Viper. Yeah, thanks. There are no more Curtis and Viper movies. We got to remake some.
Yeah, exactly. Like
We need
Sean alluded to, this year for television is just absolutely stupid. So I want you to let us know at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else, Instagram, Facebook, etc. The Last of Us Season 2, Andor Season 2, The Pit, Severance Season 2, Paradise, Daredevil Born Again, if that's your flavor. Maybe not quite the same level of quality, but if you're a comic book fan, probably the same tier of enjoyment. New season of The Bear coming later this year.
Mm-hmm.
What is going to be, when all is said and done, taking down the title of best TV show of the year? Let us know on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Especially if your top choice is Andor, you're going to want to check out our channel because we have interviews with the cast of Andor now streaming on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find those when you're hitting the like button, subscribing, hitting the notification bell. And you can also make sure you're not missing out on our Last of Us breakdowns every Monday, our Andor breakdowns every Wednesday, Comic Corner every Thursday. Sean will have an exciting interview dropping tomorrow, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. We get it all out on time with Jake Schreier, the director of Thunderbolts. They had a great conversation that'll be up on our page here shortly. I will have another exciting Thunderbolts related interview coming up here in the near future that, I've teased, not quite allowed to talk about yet, but I'm very excited to share. Rich, where can the people find you on socials? And also, just because shout out to our friend Matt Remke from thedirect.com, who likes to say, and also from Action Network and the Better Collective Roto-Grinders bubble with me. He says movies are sports all the time, likes to do his analogies, likes to do his comparisons. And the Venn diagram between geeks and nerds from movies and geeks and nerds for data and sports, it overlaps quite a bit, actually. So let the people know where they can find you and also where they can find your content.
Yeah, unlike every 80s movie you ever watched, where you have to have jocks and nerds separated, there's much more of an overlap now where it's accepted that we like all this stuff. But listen, if you do like fantasy football or like football and you like gambling and betting, you can find my stuff at Sharp Football Analysis, and I'm at Lord Reeves on both Twitter and the Blue Sky Machine. But if you don't like that stuff, I promise, social media has wrecked me. I really just use it as an extension of my business. So at this point, so I'm not usually on there sharing a lot of my thoughts. So it's cool to do something like this. I don't get to do stuff like this all the time. And I do like other things besides fantasy football, and it's great to get to share some of that. So hopefully some people came over from that world and it's like, oh yeah, Rich is a normal dude. My son's in here too, so it's all right.
Shout out to Braden, because he's not just popping in for this episode. He has been here.
Strong. So you got to change your last name to give it more of a sell.
Yeah. So shout out to the whole Rebar family. Thank you, Rich, for coming on today. This is a blast. You'll be able to catch Rich and I again during the football season, hopefully. I would assume, we hope, for the Pick Six podcast next year as well, where we talk about fantasy football for an hour and a half, and then we talk about movies for another hour after that. So we have a good time. Make sure you tune into that one. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today at Metalcore Nerds, where you can find Sean, TJ_Zwarych5, where you can find me. Like I said, you'll catch us again on Tuesday for some interviews for Thunderbolts, Wednesday for for Andor, Thursday for the Comic Corner, Friday for Thunderbolts, Saturday for some more Thunderbolts interviews, Sunday for probably not going to have anything Sunday, but then back for Monday for The Last of Us. So we got lots of great stuff coming. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time. Peace.